You still want to get your intro? No, okay. Okay. All right, Brittany, we're gonna start. I'm gonna give a countdown, and then we can get right into it. And then it's probably gonna last about an hour and stuff. But if we go over, that's fine. So don't feel like we're rushing or anything. Like you just let it
Okay,
flow
cool.
flow as naturally as possible. All
Okay,
right.
cool.
In three, two, one. Hey everybody, welcome to In My Zone. I'm your host, Darcel Edwards. In My Zone is a series where we highlight black creatives sharing their experiences and work. Today we have with us Brittany Williams. Brittany is a writer based out of Chesapeake, Virginia, the 757,
Yeah, 7'5".
She has a bachelor's in psychology, journalism, and a master's in social work. She loves to write about all things relating to life issues. She loves to review TV shows and films, and she's a podcast host. Welcome, Brittany. We're so happy to have you. How you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
No problem, no problem. We were like, as we were looking for people, came across your profile on Instagram. We were like, yep, we gotta have her on. She's doing a lot of great stuff, and so we're
Thank
like,
you.
let's reach out. So thank you
Thank
again for
you.
coming on. So tell us a little bit about you. Like, where are you from? Yeah, where'd you grow up at?
So technically I was born in Portsmouth, but I was raised in Chesapeake. So I rep both, but I'm a product of Chesapeake really. Um, so I didn't know what I really wanted to do when I went to school. I just kind of knew I wanted to help people.
Right.
So I went in the lane of psychology. That's what you're supposed to do. Um, got to my senior year and I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do now? So I had a social work class, and one of my professors like, hey, if you go in the lane of social work, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. So I was like, okay, cool. But writing had always been my passion, even when I was younger. That's all I used to do was just write poetry, write my feelings. Um, so needless to say, I went on, got my master's in social work, but that writing bug was still calling me. So I started my blog in 2017 just to share my story, have conversation, the difficult conversations nobody wants to have,
Right.
just to have a platform. And rightfully so, Brittany kind of took on a life of its own. I didn't think I would be here doing podcasts and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I just wanted to write, and here we are 4 years later. So
So growing up, like even before you got to that level in college and doing social work and kind of figuring out that writing bug, did you grow up liking writing and wanting to write like growing up?
I did. I would write poetry all the time. Like my parents and stuff for like family reunions, they'd be like, "Oh, Brittany, you should write something so you can like read it." And I'm like, you probably can't tell now, but I'm like super shy. So I'm like, I'm not speaking in front of all these people. Like, no, why I gotta do this? But I have always, always, always loved writing. Like, I'm one of them random people. I didn't mind papers in college because I had more control. Give me a paper before you give me an exam, because I don't know what you're gonna have up there, but if I write my own paper, I feel like I'm gonna be good. So yeah, my whole entire life, like I have always loved to write, but I just didn't know that I could help people through writing because
Right.
I took a more of a this is like the formal way of helping people through mental health. But my mental health background has been instrumental in my writing too. So it wasn't a waste of an experience.
So when you're writing and you're writing about mental health, how are you able to help these individuals, especially talking about something that's sensitive like mental health?
So one thing a lot of people don't understand about mental health is that anybody that has struggled with anything, it don't even have to be that you have like a mental health diagnosis. It could just be you experiencing something traumatic or you being at a low point in life. Everybody just wants to be seen and like somebody understands them, because a lot of times when we go through stuff we feel alone. We feel like, oh my god, like nobody gets what I'm going through. So pretty much when I'm writing, I'm just trying to be transparent so that people know, okay, somebody else has experienced this too. Or like it's okay that I'm going through this. This is a part of life. Like, I'm not weird. I'm not crazy.
Right.
This don't make me weak that I'm experiencing this. So I pretty much come from the standpoint of like, I see you, I hear you. I've been through that. I got family and friends who have been through that. Basically, you're not alone, because that's really what most of us want to hear. Like, somebody else has been through this and they got through it. So that's usually the road I take with that.
Yeah, and I definitely see that because especially in today's generation, a lot of people with social media, a lot of people are afraid to be vulnerable. They're
Yes,
afraid to put their feelings out there, and they really might be going through something, but they they don't have anybody to talk to. They may be scared or like, oh, somebody's gonna make fun of me because I'm having these thoughts or
right.
feeling this way. And that's why I love what you're doing, because you're giving people an avenue to feel comfortable and
Thank you.
embrace the problems that they may be going through and say, hey, like here's some help. So like I really commend you on that. That's something that's
Thank you.
amazing, and that's great. So what has been like your best experience, like that somebody has gotten from your work, that's like, man, like they may have came to you and said, I really got value about what you wrote, or like has you had those experiences that's like, man, like I really feel good about this.
Um, Honestly, I would have to say it's when I kind of shed with my blog world
Mm-hmm.
that I was struggling with infertility. Because that was like that's even more taboo sometimes, I think, than mental health, because people just have this idea that anytime you have sex, women can get pregnant and
Right.
boom, like everybody can just have kids out of nowhere. And then it's like there's this other side to it. That doesn't happen for everybody. So when I finally decided to share that, hey, this sucks, but like I'm here, I'm okay, and just trying to just network with other people who have been through it just to get a support system. So me sharing that and me having people, hit my inbox or my DM, people that I went to school with, people that
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with in the past, that we've never had this conversation. So I never would have known that they struggle with conceiving, or the reason why they don't have kids now is because they struggle with infertility. So for me, that was the biggest thing, because it's such a sensitive subject and we really don't talk about it enough. So just the fact that people felt comfortable enough to confide in me and say, "Hey, like, yeah, me and my husband, we're struggling too." That was pretty huge for me, and it kind of made me say, "Okay, like now I can't stop writing, I can't stop talking about it, because clearly there are other people out here who need to hear this and need to see that they are not alone, and there's somebody else going through it."
Yeah, and that's something amazing to hear, because something like infertility, like you may like I'm sure I'm not a woman, so I can't really speak on it, but I'm sure there's many women
Right,
out here who share the same experiences, and you just
right.
being that voice to hear, like, and especially in the black community, black women don't are so disrespected to the point, and nobody wants to hear about these issues. So
Nope.
so tell me about that. Like, why is it important for you to be a voice for other black women, and why are black women so disrespected?
Ooh. Um, to answer the first part of the question, anytime, and I can even say this for myself, even me being like younger, being a teenager and a young adult, white women are like the face of infertility.
Right.
Like, even if you go like in the OB office, the doctor office, them women's health magazines and stuff, it's gonna be somebody white up there 9 times out of
Right.
10. So it's almost as if black women are excluded from this struggle, and it's like, no, we going through it just like y'all are. In some cases, we're experiencing it more, and I just feel like as a black person, I have to talk about it because we're not seeing it. Even
Right.
now, like if you go on social media and you like hashtag like infertility awareness and stuff like that, you're gonna find more white women than you do black women. And there's a stereotype that black women are just super fertile and we just have a whole bunch of kids, which is not true. It's just the furthest thing from the truth. Like, it pisses me off, but it is what it is. So I just think we need a platform, and it just falls into the whole thing with black women are strong. We don't struggle else struggles. We're resilient. We bounce back. And that's not always true because everybody goes through things that tear them down. Everybody goes through things that, it's hard for them to bounce back from. But it's like Black women aren't really given that grace to do that. It's like we're seen as like super strong, which I think goes into the point of us being disrespected because it's kind of like, well, they can take it, they can handle it. We just don't get the same grace and mercy as other people and races. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's kind of like they don't want us to speak because they don't like the way we speak. They don't like the attitude we have. But then it's like, well, if you don't talk about it, then you're not going to get through it. And it's kind of like, what's the point of talking if you ain't going to believe me?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure that's the reason why a lot of women just like are quiet about it because they don't
Yep.
want to. They feel like, well, like nobody's gonna believe me and nobody's gonna care, and that's a problem that we have to address. So I really appreciate you using this platform to talk about it because I'm sure a lot of women are going to get some value out of this conversation and be like, okay, like there is help out here for me, and then we're gonna connect them with you, and then that's just gonna we're gonna continue to grow from there. And
Absolutely.
and one thing that I want to give you your flowers again is like you're actually taking the step to make the changes and talk about it and you're not just like, oh, like I have these problems, and that takes a lot of courage and that takes a lot of strength to do that. So
Thank you.
I commend you on that. That's so great. So when
Thank you.
when you're writing and you're talking about these various issues, do you ever hit like writer's block to a point where you can't write?
Absolutely. Especially sometimes when I'm going through things, people would think, oh, your emotions are raw and that's the best time to put them on paper. Not always. One thing I've definitely learned through my blogging journey over the years is it's good to have the raw emotions, but then sometimes, like, I have to think of the perception of somebody that's reading my stuff sometimes.
Right.
So I don't like people to feel like something comes off as me being angry or something comes off as me being pissed off. While I may feel those emotions and that like may be true, I don't want my message to get lost in my delivery.
Right.
So sometimes I'll have writer's block because I'll start writing and I'll go back and read it and I'll be like, I don't like the way this sound. Or if somebody read this, they gonna think something other than what I'm trying to say. So it happens like all the time. I'm definitely a person, I write from inspiration. So if I don't feel inspired or led, then I just won't write it because then I feel like I'm not being authentic and giving my honest like feelings and opinions. So yeah, I definitely have writer's block. And it's usually when I'm going through something because then it's too much for me to write at one time. So I usually have to wait till I'm either on the other side of it or when my emotions calm down a little bit and I say, okay, I can write and get this out now.
So you talk about inspiration and like inspiration gets your writing out of you and gets the juices going. And I saw that you wrote a piece about Malcolm and Marie and
Hmm.
also on Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels. So
Yes.
how does I guess music and TV and film influence your writing or inspire your writing?
Um, I've always been one of those people who I appreciate a good story. I am very appreciative of somebody who can make me feel like I'm there, or the way that somebody might cuss somebody out, or the way they might tilt their head when they talking. If somebody can get that right for me in art, or the way you sing a certain line or say a certain line, if you can make me like feel that in my soul, I am appreciative. I am very appreciative of great writers. So usually anytime I see something that almost just I can't stop thinking about it. Um I have to like write, or it just gives me the inspiration to keep going. And that is really kind of how anything that I write on that's music or film related or TV related, if it just lingers and I can't, like, I'm thinking about this, like, these are real life people, that inspires me because I think it takes a true talent to put something, on a record or through a song or on TV or in a film and it leaves a lasting impression, especially now because it's so much reality TV and it's so much stuff that, it's just scripted and, it's fighting and cussing each other out. And I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I enjoy it. But when it's just, when it doesn't have that and it leaves this lasting impression, it just inspires me even more to write because I'm like, oh my God, like for you to just write this and then everybody be inspired, this is great. So yeah.
So what did you for the people who haven't read your pieces about these things, what did you get from Jasmine Sullivan's Hotels and Malcolm and Marie? What was your take on it?
From Hotels, for me, it was just like, this is like a collection of stories from a whole bunch of women, which they are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's our reality. It's our reality of being in bad relationships. It's our reality of being in good relationships. It's our reality of taking fault in a relationship because we messed up.
Right.
We always hear a lot about, men being a bad guy. Sometimes we don't be doing right either. Um, just the vulnerability for me, it was spot on. Just even her owning like sex and like, nah, listen, y'all men think they control everything. Like, no, like we can be animals too.
Yeah.
Like just the level of vulnerability was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, like how did she do this? Malcolm and Marie, for me, I thought it was incredible that pretty much any problem you can have in a relationship, we saw it in like 90
Yeah.
minutes. I was just like, oh my God. A lot. I was exhausted after I watched it. I kind of felt like I was there with them. Like I had to go to sleep after I wrote that blog. They wore me out. But I thought it was classic that literally any stuff I have experienced, like marriage, before marriage, when I was a teenager, just any relationship problem that either could have happened or that I've been through, I felt like everybody watched it all in that movie all at
Right.
one time. So I think that's why it got a lot of flack and people was like, oh, they so toxic, it's too much. I'm like, yeah, it's too much to go through in 90 minutes. But I'm like, we all done been there at
Yeah.
one part of their argument. We have experienced that, whether it's the jealousy, whether it's the not being honest, whether it's the um you still thinking about your ex, you not giving me my credit for what I've done for you. We've all been there. Like you just triggered because you don't want to admit it, but we all been we all done been through that at some point. So it just kind of blew my mind to see that in all within an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, definitely, because that's what when I was watching it, I was just like, man, like this is some triggering moments. Like I was like, hold on, like I was just,
Several, yeah.
I was sitting there like,
Several.
this is too real, and and like you said, like it was a lot for 90 minutes, but because at first I was just like, man, that was a lot. They was going back and forth, and they was getting into 5 different arguments. I was just like, this is a lot. But when you actually go back to analyze it, like it's just like, wow, like okay, like I have been there at this point. I can relate to that. So when you have pieces of work like that makes you think and like makes you reflect back on your experiences, it can
Exactly.
also help you get better. So like I definitely enjoyed that, and like even reading your blog about it, you touched on a lot of good points. So that was pretty dope to see.
Thank
So
you.
being a black woman in this space, do you face any stereotypes or um like people may be saying like, oh, because she's a black writer, she's not good, or like she's her work is not up to par? Do you ever face those moments?
Not not that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
I will say was an eye opener for me was when George Floyd, when we really last year during the pandemic, and when George Floyd, when all of that happened, I think all of us were just kind of like, okay, we can't go nowhere, and now we still got this stuff happening.
Right.
It was just too much. And I had did a post just about, my feelings and just feeling like, it is just too much to deal with at one time, and just the uncertainty of feeling like, anytime a black male or a black woman, but specifically black men, anytime y'all go to the store or you want to go hang out with your boys, it's kind of like we gotta hold our breath and just pray, that you come back home.
Right.
And for me, what was kind of eye opening was from that piece, and I did a blog where I had people share their racist experiences. Um, I had a lot of white women apologizing in my inbox.
Oh wow.
And on the post, and it kind of caught me off guard because I was like, I don't know what to say because I don't know why they're apologizing to me personally. But I think as much as I love to say that, it's so much stuff on social media, I don't understand if it's taboo. That moment right there kind of taught me that I really can't be silent about anything because there are still people who are learning, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
about racism, whether it's about infertility health, whatever it is. I am always shocked by people's responses because I feel like me just thinking, oh, I'm just writing a blog or I'm just making a post on Instagram. It's always these random moments where people are like, I didn't understand, but after reading this, like now I get it. So not even just the side of me being disrespected. I think it's almost this side of I kind of feel obligated to teach and say
Right.
things, but I really shouldn't feel that way because a lot of things are not my place to teach and to get people to understand. So it's almost like I have to balance between is this something I just want to share and do, or am I feeling obligated? Like there are too many ignorant people out here, and I need to make sure that they get it and they know what I'm talking about. So I think for a lot of Black writers, there is this weight of getting it right, saying it
Mm-hmm.
right, making sure, we don't sound a certain way when we're talking and when we're writing. So I haven't necessarily like found the disrespect personally. I'll tell you one thing that irritates me though. Um, Sometimes if I'm looking for pitches to submit to,
Mm-hmm.
I notice now there are a lot of, oh, well, we only want it from people of color or women of color. And I'm going to tell you why that irritates me. Where in your organization is it lacking that now you have to solicit specifically stories from people of color? Like, why already on your staff is there not diversity enough where, thank you for giving us the opportunity to
Right.
speak, but why now seeking these stories from women of color? Why is somebody not already there that's able to either share our story or, you got a Latina, a Black woman, somebody that's Asian that can already, give you the tea because they're there. Why do you have to search and say, hey, I'll give you $100 for 800 word posts to tell me your feelings about such and such? Like I always just question where your Black writer on your staff at?
Yeah.
Like, so that to me is still baffling because I do feel like even though we've had amazing, Black writers over time who have shed light on a lot of things, we are still missing from a lot of spaces. Like we just are.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes me feel like, is our story like story's not appreciated? Like, are they not worthy enough to be told? Like, what is the issue? So I think in like the freelance world, just the editorial world, websites, anything, magazines, we're still lacking unless the platform is like built for us.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. Like I feel like a lot of these individuals are reaching out of guilt, and it's not coming
Yeah,
from a genuine place. Like
yeah,
you shouldn't like yeah, like you said, thank you for the opportunity, but you should already have these people in place, not based off of their skin color, but based off of their skill, and that's something that these individuals got to realize is just like, hey, don't hire me just because you need a black writer. Like you need somebody on your staff full time that can write on any piece. Like it's just like hire just for the skill. So I feel like that's something that what we see often. But I feel like and like you were saying earlier about teaching, like I feel like it's our job to teach and say, hey, don't just hire us just because we're black. Hire us because we can add value and we're strong assets to your team, and that you should be doing this regardless of our skin color.
Exactly. Like you're losing out on an audience because of who you choose to hire. And
Right.
it's insulting because I mean, if I think about some of the best storytellers for me, they're gonna be black people.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say that because when I watch Insecure, it's just something about the way that Issa no, this has to be said this way. You got to use this slang word. When
Right.
she say this, she got to turn and look this way. If I can see me on screen, it's usually because somebody in production, somebody directing, somebody who is writing is a black person. So I'm just like, you have to put these people in these spaces. You can't just,
Right.
I mean, granted, we're at a point now, we create our own spaces, which I love anytime somebody black is doing something. But that is just one thing that irritates me because I'm like, y'all want these black writers, but why they ain't already there?
Yeah, yeah, and especially like the world is built off of black culture, but oftentimes the ones that are creating it aren't black, and it just it's mind blowing to me. Like, and
Listen,
it doesn't make any sense. But I feel like with us
whew,
creating our own spaces, I feel like in a couple years you're really gonna see this emergence. Like, yeah, like we got it all black over here, so like don't worry about it.
exactly. Don't even worry about it. Like we good. Exactly.
So earlier you mentioned George Floyd and the pandemic, but something I wanted to touch on because especially today is the anniversary of when we lost Brianna Taylor.
It is.
So can you tell me about like how that affected you, especially with being in the pandemic and also dealing with George Floyd and how you was able to get through those things?
I think I think the about Breonna Taylor's story that really hit home for us is if you noticed earlier when I was talking about George Floyd, I said, when y'all leave the house, we get
Mm-hmm.
worried about y'all coming home. It is so scary to think, well, no, you could be home and then you can die outside your house and you land in the bed.
Yeah.
So I think that was so triggering for so many people because we kind of have in our mind that well if I'm not out in public or if I don't get stopped by the police like I'm good.
Right.
So just to have somebody be in their bed and it's kind of like oh well we had just cause to do what we did. Then I think the insult about they weren't really being the police weren't being honest with her mama like it was just a lot to take in because it's kind of like you can't help but put yourself in her shoes because I'm thinking my mama would have been worried sick.
Right.
She can't get to me. She can't see me. It's nothing but swatting police cars outside. The information that they giving me is half-assed. Um, so it definitely hit me different because I was just like, we kind of take for granted sleeping in our beds. Like,
Right.
damn, going outside, we get in the house to get comfortable, we watch TV, we lay down, and we really don't think about, the outside world anymore. We kind of in our safe space, but is it really safe? So for me, I'm one of them people. Usually, when stuff like that is happening, I don't watch the videos
Mm-hmm.
if they are available.
Right.
The last video I think I watched of somebody being killed by police was I'm gonna butcher his last name, Philando Castile.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the last one I watched. I don't watch the videos because I just think, coming from a mental health standpoint, you're really not supposed to watch people getting killed. And I put that in one of my blogs that people don't understand how triggering that is, and it's twofold because it's kind of like, thank God we have the footage so you can see, these people are being wrongly killed. They're unarmed. They're not resisting arrest. They're not doing anything. But it is so triggering to see the videos, to watch somebody scream for help, to watch somebody get killed. So for me, I usually have to like unplug and I'll just stay off social media because then you have the arguments. Then you have the people who think, well, you got to consider X, Y, Z. So then
Yeah.
it just becomes too much. So for me, I had to get off social media for a little bit until it like died down because it was just it's so triggering to see, and then it's a lot every time you log on. It's the first thing you see. Like there is no more news feed of anything else. Literally, that's all you see all day long. So the best way for me to get through it, I just had to unplug because I it was a lot, and then to be stuck in the house, you don't have no distractions. Nobody really knew still what was going on with COVID. So yeah, between that and all of that stuff happened back to back, I was like, yeah, no. Instagram and Facebook, I'm gonna have to Twitter, all that. I was like, I'm gonna just have to detach for a little bit.
Yeah, and it's super desensitizing. Like it's like when you
Yes,
see those videos over and over and over, it's just like almost like you look at it like, man, like this happened again. But
yes.
then like it's just like, oh, okay, just another day in America, and that's sick. That's sick to say, and as you say, like triggering, like me being from LA and just being around, like I know many of people who've gotten killed due to gun
Mhm.
violence, and I know people who have seen gun violence firsthand. So I can only imagine what they're going with when they see these videos. What kind of emotions that triggers. So like, and this is and like you said on the flip side, like it is good because we see these things being done on camera and nobody can really lie about it because the proof is right here. But at
Right.
least one thing that I want people to realize is if you're gonna reshare or post one of those videos, put a trigger warning before you post it. Don't
Yes,
don't just
please.
don't just throw it up there because oftentimes like some people don't want to see it, and that's like I don't want my whole timeline to be that because it's it's already messed up as it is already, and then I gotta see this all the time. Like it's just like man, like
Over and over.
yeah, we can get into that. We can get into that all day, but I'm just like, oh, like it's terrible. But
It is.
um, but one thing that I wanted to ask you about,
Mhm.
you released a series of journals. Can you
Mhm.
tell us about that and how you got inspired to do that?
Um, so I have since I've been blogging, it'll be 4 years in August. I kept saying, all right, I want to do some kind of merch or something that like, I could like really, really sell, something I could create that could be like my little baby. Um, and it was like nothing would hit for me. Like I was like, oh, I could do like shirts. Absolutely not. That ain't my thing. So I kept trying to say, what could I do? So finally, if you look on the internet, everything's on Google and YouTube. So I found this girl that was kind of like, she teaches you different ways to like basically create products. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
want to do shirts, mugs, everything. So saw her talk about, creating journals or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's kind of dope. I could not sleep after I saw that video. So like weeks on end, I'd be up in the middle of the night, like I have to go back and watch those journal videos.
Right.
So then it kind of hit for me because I was just like, people ask me about journaling all the time. A lot of my family members would say, like, well, what do you write about when you write? Or, if you journaling, trying to get your feelings out, like, what angle do you go from? So people ask me about journals anyway. People buy me journals all the time. So I was like, maybe I should start selling journals. So I literally watched the video. That's why I don't like when people say, I want to do this, I want to get started, but I don't know where to start. You ain't Googling the right thing because I promise you everything is online. Um, so I just really took the time to play around with it. And when I felt comfortable enough, shout out to my co host on Bronson Blueprint, Shawana Ward. Um, she takes pictures. Telling her, I was like, Shawana, I really think like this is it for me, and I kind of want to do like a little launch, and COVID. So I was like, it would have to be something, I just post pictures for. So she was like, all right, bet, let me know. So I pretty much just probably over the course of like 3 months or so, I'd be up 2 o'clock in the morning designing journals, thinking about things that I would want to see on a journal or like stuff that my friends would buy. Like if such and such was looking for a journal, like what would she look for? So I just wanted to create something that was like for me and for like people that I know, people that I write, people that also write. So I launched my journal. Has it been a month? It's been a month on the 12th tomorrow. So yeah, and business has been good. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, I got some here. Yeah, so this is one of them, sophisticated shit talker. But yeah, that's how they came about. It was just one of them things, God was like, girl, you gonna keep playing or you not gonna keep playing? So I literally be in the bed 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and up thinking about you need to start this now. So I was like, okay, God, I hear you. So I'm gonna do it.
Can you run us through the titles of the journals? Because I like the sophisticated shit
Sure.
talker right there.
We got melanin thoughts, for my black sisters. I got dream beyond the stars for like, my little journaler. Um, self love is the key. This comes in white. This is the original, so this is not what's on Amazon, but melanin is the mood. This is blue. What else I got? I got a brainstorming notebook, so that's kind of gender neutral. What else I got? Oh, I got it's the growth for me, and then I have like a fertility journal. So all of these blank journals, and then this dream one is guided. So you write like, what symbols you see in your dream, what happened in the dream, and then your interpretation. And I'm a big dreamer, so I thought about myself when I did that because sometimes I have to go back and be like, what was that? Or I Google, what certain things mean in dreams. And I know a lot of people who are big into like symbols and getting messages from their dreams. So that's how that one came about. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super dope because you're giving inspiration to write your thoughts out. And I'm a firm believer, like if you want to do it, you got to write it down. You got to write it down, put it in words. You can't just think about it. You got to put it down, put it in paper. And especially like I like that you got different theme ones because that may inspire different individuals to put their thoughts down. So that is like super amazing. I'm definitely gonna order me a few after we get off of this because like I just love that. And it needs to be, we need to encourage more people. Just write shit down, just get it out.
Write it down. And we still kind of stuck in the house, I mean, stuff getting a little better. I know they saying, I don't really know. They saying it, I don't know how true it is. But I just think I feel how you feel. You gotta write stuff out. And I know for me, at some of my lowest points, writing was like my way of getting through, or even, not even just saying prayers out loud, sometimes writing them down. So prior to now, even I used to always encourage people, you gotta journal or write and get that stuff out because it'll eat you up if you don't say what you feel.
Yep. You hit it right on the head right there. I totally agree. So can you tell us about your podcast? Brown Skin Blueprint. How'd you get started with that? Tell us all about it.
So, Brown Skin Blueprint, me and my co-host Shawana. Funny story. So I met Shawana through my ex-boyfriend. Wasn't always so fond of her, and I don't follow her on Twitter, read her on Facebook. But some way, somehow, we end up following each other again, and she pretty much was into the same stuff that I'm into. So she was doing like YouTube videos early on. She would talk about her life and some of the stuff she had been through. And one thing that kind of stuck out about Shawana for me that I felt like, okay, like cool. She was transparent and authentic. And like we were saying before, when you talk about mental health and stuff you've been through, people don't want to show that on social media.
Right.
They talking about these stimulus checks. They talking about where they spend them at. We see these Instagram models. Everybody trying to figure out how to get their body done. So it was kind of like, oh my God, this is my person. Like she like gets me. So I just kind of text her one day, and I was just like, "You ever thought about doing a podcast?" So we basically linked up from there, and through working on various podcasts, because this ain't technically the first one, but this is ours together. We end up building a friendship. She a Leo like I am. So even just outside of connecting on creative stuff, we clicked in a lot of ways. And I was just like, sometimes I feel like the girl is reading my thoughts. Like I just feel like, how you know me that? So we basically came together to form a platform where not only do we try to inspire and uplift people, but kind of sort of the same things I do for my own personal brand. Just had a difficult conversations nobody wants to have
Right.
because they're ashamed or they feel like, nobody's gonna understand or I'm gonna be judged. And I just felt like she was a perfect person because she was already doing this without me, and she
Mm-hmm.
still does it on her own personal Instagram and blog, which is predominantly love. So even outside of me, that was already who she was anyway. So I was just like, bruh, like we just gonna have to get together and like make this shit happen. And yeah, it's taking off, and I'm just like so excited. I love recording with her and talking to her in general. So
That's super dope, and especially that you found somebody that like matches you, because that's to get a lot of things off the ground. You need people around. You need a team around you for
yes,
real. Like,
yes, yes,
and you can always have these. You can always have these amazing ideas and these big dreams and big ideas, but you need people around you that see your vision, that think like you, and not only think like you, but they have their own opinion that can challenge you and say like, nah, like I don't think that's gonna work like that, but we should do it like this, and just challenge you to grow and build and strive for greatness. So
exactly.
that's definitely dope. So how, with doing a podcast, how much different is it than writing, getting your thoughts out on writing and actually speaking?
It's different because for one, I have another friend who she's not a big reader. She doesn't like to read.
Right.
So sometimes when I do blogs, I keep her in mind because I think if this shit is too long and somebody opens it, they're gonna click back out. So
Right.
sometimes I have to, narrow down what I want to say, or I'd be like, all right, Brittany, now you're getting too wordy. With podcasts, you can just expand on the idea until you like, okay, I don't say what I need to say, and then that's it. So with blogging, sometimes I feel limited because, like I said, I know people who don't like reading. So sitting there and reading something that's gonna take forever, like that ain't their thing. So sometimes you just like hearing people talk,
Right.
and I like podcasts personally. So I just feel like when you can just hear somebody, share their thoughts and they can expand on it without having to worry about like a word limit or somebody reading it. To me, that is the benefit. So in that way, I feel like it's more beneficial and different than blogging because I don't ever feel limited when me and Shawana have a conversation. Like I just say what I got to say and
Mm-hmm.
keep it moving.
Yeah, that's super dope, and I'm glad that you are able to do both of them and like be able to write and use your voice and actually have people to hear you. Because you're right, like some people they really like, oh, I'm not reading all that, and it'd be less than 100 words. Like,
The
come on.
captions on Shade Room. Oh my God, them people kill. Oh my. Can somebody tell me what they're saying? Because I'm not reading. Like, really? You that lazy though? Like, you ain't got 30 seconds to take the time to read that. So I have dumb people in mind when I'm writing. Like, Lord, they open this, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, no, she lost me. So yeah, people don't read now. It's just they don't have the attention span for it.
Yeah, and that's something that we all have to adapt to. Because I grew up like just growing up, I had to read. Like my dad used to make me read the newspaper and stuff, so that's kind of how I got accustomed to it. But nowadays, people not reading anything, so that's something that
No,
hopefully we
what
can fix.
read? What? No, they looking for a video or somebody talking. Sometimes the videos be too long. They be like, she up there talking to the parent. Ain't nobody listening to that book. And I just be like, damn, what is wrong with y'all attention span? So yeah, when you see the podcast and you see how long it is, you can figure out if you want to listen or split it up. So yeah.
So earlier you spoke about being married. How has your marriage been pivotal to your like success, and how has your husband been like helped you grow as an individual?
Um, so I like to call him my editor, my unofficial editor. Um, so for one, our backstory, I met my husband when I was 12.
Oh wow.
We were friends. We didn't, date right off the bat because I'm like, dude, you like my brother. like that's nasty. Like, no, we're not doing it. So it's been dope because he always knew, he knew my passion for writing. He
Right.
knew like what I like to do. So it wasn't like that was new to him. And then when it comes to my blogs and stuff, God forbid I spell a word wrong, I miss a comma, I skip a word. He gonna screenshot it or he gonna be like, Brittany, you missing a the right here or something. I'd be like, thanks, because I don't know how I missed that, but thank you for catching it. So he keeps me in line, or even with my journals, I had to think, like, I know I like this stuff, but I'm like, everybody ain't gonna like everything.
Right.
So anytime I would create something, I'd be like, what you think about that? And he'd be like, some stuff, he's like, Brittany, you can't really understand what that word is, or that font you use, like, what does that say? So I appreciated that though, because I'm looking at my design, my creation, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like, this looks good. But he was right. Like, some stuff people gonna look at it and be like, what does that say? I don't understand that cursive font. So for me, just the support been amazing. Like, literally, I can bring anything to him and say, this is what I'm about to do, because I'm
Right.
always full of ideas. Some of them never see the light of day, thank God, because they're bad ideas. But whatever I want to do, he'd be like, oh, okay, like, well, how you gonna go about it? Yada yada yada. So he's been very supportive. Definitely, like I said, any opinions I need, he has been there to give me his opinion and his thoughts on stuff. So it's been great. And then I think just talking about fertility, I've talked about being married on my blog. I always ask him first, like, you okay with me sharing this? And I can't think of a time that like I wanted to post or write about something. He was like, nah, Brittany, I think that's too much. He did a joint blog with me for us being together for 10 years. So that was cool because I can't never get him to collab with me or anything. But yeah, he's just been super supportive, and I'm glad that he lets me be transparent about
Right.
us too. Because I mean, that can get tricky because it's not just my story to tell; it's his story too. So the support has just been amazing, and him just, yeah, if you want to write and talk about it, like, go ahead, like, that's fine. So that's been dope.
Yeah, and that's super. That support is super key because
Yeah,
when you're in the relationships and you're trying to build something and you do not have a supportive partner, no matter how much you may love the person or you how good y'all are or may think y'all are together, if that support is not there, it's not gonna work. Um,
no,
and that's something that's like good and refreshing to hear that that you have that support because like that allows you to just grow and go into any direction. The fact that you're able to send him everything, and then the fact that he's able to like, oh no, do this, do that, like it's just like that's refreshing and like it gives you confidence too. It gives you confidence like, okay, my
it does.
my partner believes in me, so I'm gonna put out this dope shit. So like that's extremely great, and I'm happy for y'all.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, when you do freelance work, when you writing for other companies or stuff, what is that experience like? Is it challenging? Is it hard?
It's not challenging, but because I'm a person that I like to write about things that I'm led to or things
Right.
that I feel like, are me. The challenging part for me sometimes is because it's like another person's platform and idea, I may not connect with it right away.
Got you.
So sometimes I have to either like, okay, Brittany, you got to do this, so you're gonna have to focus. It's different when I'm writing for myself, because then even if I lose motivation or something, I'm gonna put that blog off to next month. But if I'm writing for somebody else's platform, I got a deadline.
Right.
So it's more, the challenge for me is more of if it's something that I'm not like super into or something that, oh, this is kind of interesting, or it might be something I have no idea about and I kind of got to do my own research. That's different. But usually because whenever I'm led, I don't put myself on like a deadline or anything to
Right.
get my blogs out, because I feel like, people are going to read your best work. They're not worried about if you drop in the blog every single want. Like, I think the over quantity. That's just my personal opinion. So that can get tricky sometimes because sometimes I'd be like, I mean, yeah, I'll take the article. Like, I'm not, super into this topic, but sure, like I'll do it. So to me, that is the hardest thing because I only write for like what I'm led or inspired by. But if I'm writing for a different platform, then it is what it is.
What has been your favorite like project that you worked on for somebody else that you connected with and resonated with the most?
So, shout out to Brittany Miller of Woman to Woman Digital Magazine. My very first freelance article, I interviewed Dr. Mila Bennett. She's a
Mhm.
plastic surgeon. And it was full circle for me because I remember watching her on, I think she was on Braxton Family Values or Real
Mhm.
Housewives. So at the time, I didn't equate the names, but after I started, researching about her and stuff, I was like, oh my God, I
All right.
remember the episode. Blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of a full circle moment because you see whether it's celebrities or doctors that go to, you see these people on TV, but you never think you're gonna talk to them or
Right.
anything like that. So it was kind of dope for me because I was just like, wow, I remember watching her on a random episode years ago. I think the Braxtons went to see her, one of the sisters, and I'm like, here I am talking to her on the phone, like interviewing her. And she was super sweet, super informative, and super honest, which I appreciated. And she's a Black woman. So that was kind of like the oh shit moment for me
Yeah.
because I was just like, wow, like who would have ever thought that I would have been connected to her like this? So that was cool for me.
That's super. That's super dope, and it's good when you can work with somebody that you like, kind of like look up to, or like that you've seen before, because then you really get inspired and you connect with your work, and that's when you put out your best work.
Yes.
So I definitely.
Yes, I was like, oh my God, yeah. And then sometimes, you get scared because you like, oh my God, is this gonna change my perception of somebody? But I was just happy. She was just dope. She was honest and she was super cool. So it was an amazing experience.
That's dope. What value do you hope to provide through your work when writing?
Whew, good question. Authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just I think it's hard to be yourself. People say just be you, just be you,
Yeah.
just be you. No, because people don't like you. People don't like that. They don't like the way you look, the way you talk. They don't like your opinion. So no, it's just not that simple. So one thing I feel like, the one thing I do love about myself personally and in my writing, you'll see it in some of my blogs. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna say that I was wrong. If I
Right.
be like, Brittany, you like some bullshit, like I'm gonna be the first person to tell myself that. Um, and I just want people to know, like I said in the beginning, we all make mistakes. We all have done shit we either are not proud of. We have all been at fault for something. We've all, been at low points. And I just want people to know it's okay to tell your real honest feelings and your perception of what has happened to you. I mean, it's intimidating at times. Have I ever
Mm-hmm.
wrote something and been like, I don't know if I should share this? Absolutely. Have people given me flack for stuff I shared that they've been involved in? Absolutely. Even if I don't say their name or
Right.
who they are, they know I'm talking about them. But it's my story and it's my story to tell. So I want people to be okay with telling their stories. And you don't have to, do it on a platform as large as this. I'm an advocate for therapy. So even if you got to go to therapy and get your honest, like authentic feelings out, I think everybody should do that because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. Like, yes, people are gonna have their opinions and their thoughts about you, but you have to live with that person in the mirror. So it's kind of like you might as well just, figure it out anyway and deal with the emotions that come with it. But yeah, I just want people to be like, oh, she stayed true to herself in her story. So yeah.
Yeah, that authenticity is key because and people can see that. The people can see that through
Yes.
your work, and they gonna tell like, I think she faking it right here, or I think she fraud. So
Yes, Yes.
authenticity is really key, and I'm glad that's something that you put on the forefront.
Thank
So
you.
as we start to wrap up, one more question that I have for you is, what advice do you want to give to others that may come after you, want to get involved in writing, want to get started? What advice would you give to them?
Um, One of the things I go back to is quality over quantity. I know there's this big push that you need to be consistent and you need to pump out, 2 blogs a month. You need to post those blogs. You need to make sure that everybody knows about those blogs. I agree with the consistent part.
Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like people know when you writing something that you really feel and when something might be bullshit or you just writing a post to write a post. And I say that because even when I look at my analytics, there are blogs from like 2 and 3 years ago that still might be in my top 5 read blogs, but it's the pieces that people connect with. Like one of my I have a blog on like, is it worth it to make amends with an old friend? That pops up all the time that
Wow.
people randomly find it and they want to read it. And I think I wrote that in like 2018. I have a blog on forgiveness. I think that came out in 2018 or 2019, and people always read it and want to like see what I'm talking about. So for me, it's not always about let me just pump out a whole bunch of. I think that when you find what is good and you connect with it and you feel like this is dope, that's what you need to put out. Don't just be writing shit just to be writing. I think that you have to follow your own formula. I don't think your journey is going to look like anybody else's. Should you see what people have done? Absolutely. It shit is on Google
Right.
and YouTube. Yeah, if the information is there, absolutely take it. But don't think that because, somebody wrote a blog and blew up overnight or they got discovered by, a brand in 2 weeks. Don't think, that's gonna be your story. It's okay to have the slow grind. I think
Right.
now with social media, we think people just sleep. Well, some of them do. You go viral and your whole life is that don't happen for everybody. So that's
Nope.
okay too. So I just think embracing the slow grind of it all, like learning your platform, learning your audience, learning, okay, when I write this, who is picking up, knowing that your friends and family might not always support you, and knowing that you need to keep going even if they don't like what you're saying or what you're writing, because you ain't start that blog or podcast or whatever for them, you did it for you. So I think just being true to why you started and why you want to do this. Because some people do stuff, for clout or for attention. And I just think if your heart not in it, people see that shit a mile away. You
Yep.
think they don't, but like you can see, like, oh nah, she talking about this for attention, or he trying to get clout. So I think, long as your intentions are pure, like people will see that, but don't stop writing or, expressing yourself to somebody else.
Yeah, that's some great advice, and I think a lot of
Thank you.
people should pay attention and listen and write that down. Go grab one of your journals and write that down in their journal that they get, because you was dropping gems. So,
Yeah.
to wrap up, where can people find you and follow you, and what can they expect from you next?
So, rightfully so Brittany.com. That's my blog, but anything I do is up there. My Instagram and my Facebook page is right at rightfully so Brittany, and the rightfully is spelled WRTE. WRIT, rightfully so Brittany. Brown Skin Blueprint is podcast, so you can find me there. My side podcast, when I just want to talk about my TV shows and stuff, that's Cinema Unfolding Truth, so you can find me there too. But everything is on rightfully so Brittany.com. As far as what's coming next, I am about to just be banging these journals out for real. I got more designs I'm working on. I got some designs in review right now that I'm just waiting for Amazon to say, all right, they good to go. So the journals are pretty much my focus right now. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be writing forever. So yeah, it's always gonna be probably something new or something I'm working on writing wise. But my journals got my focus right now. So
Cool, yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to get mine, like I said. And
Thank you. I appreciate it.
no problem. Like I love what you're doing. Everything that you're doing is great, and I can't wait to continue to watch your success and growth. And ultimately, we're gonna be able to build together and stuff. Because I want to be able to bring you in on projects we working on and everything. So we definitely stay in touch and keep it going.
Listen, y'all just hit me up. Energy has been great. I'm just thankful that y'all even have this platform because Black creators definitely they just do at this point. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been phenomenal. I enjoyed myself immensely.
Cool. Well, thank you, Brittany. Thank you for coming on In My Zone. We appreciate you, and we'll be in contact soon.
All right. Have a good day.
All right.
All right, bye.
Magic. Oh, we're still recording.
Pull up the yellow bottom, middle, rose milk.
All right.